Hello and welcome to the VMAX video tutorial series. In this video we are going to finish up the Visualization Studio and look at the last couple of exhibits. If you haven't watched the earlier videos, you'll want to do that because we're going to be using the movement keys fairly casually, and you want to make sure you're comfortable with those. Or not just the keys, but the movement controls. Now for this exhibit, we looked at 3 exhibits prior to this video, and we are going to now look at another one. But to see this one, you're going to have to use another movement key that we haven't really used much before, and that's flying. And you can get to flying by clicking the flying key, and the up arrow and down arrow will let you control that. And the other way you can control that is you can hit the F key, and F key starts and basically toggles the flying. The E key flies up, and the C key flies down. And while you're flying, all the other movement keys work the same way, so you're able to move around as you feel. Now, in order to see this particular exhibit, what we need to do is we need to go up, and we're going to look at exoplanet formation. Now, what you can do for this is basically, this exhibit's going to be big, and the 2 ways you can view this is you can fly yourself using those controls to kind of get yourself some good seats. The other thing is, if you recall in the first video, or earlier video, I held down the Alt key, or for Apple folks, that's the Apple key, and your mouse turns into a magnifying glass, and you're able to use it to zoom around. And that's what I'm going to do for this exhibit. So what we have here, floating up in the sky, are these controls that look very similar to video controls, kind of like a Blu-ray or DVD players. And we're going to hit play. You can see play begins the process, and what we're watching is sort of like a 3-dimensional recording of the formation of an exoplanet system. We start with this cloud, and the cloud is collapsing in on itself because of its own gravity, and it also has a rotation, which you would normally expect as well. And as this cloud begins to compress, at the center you get fusion, which you just saw, and that's the star basically being born. You also have the accretion disk, and appearing in the accretion disk as the dust, just as the dust collapsed on itself and formed the star, you also have parts of the accretion disk collapsing on itself and forming an exoplanet. And it's represented by this kind of computery thing, because if this was to scale, it'd be too tiny for you to see, so it's just sort of a call out. And as you can see, the exoplanet cleared its own orbit, and that's why you saw some of the dust disappear, and eventually all the dust ends up coalescing into something, and you have your exoplanet system. Now the other thing you can do here, just as I mentioned, it's similar to controls on a Blu-ray, is you can stop this video and you can play it backwards. So at this point, what we're going to be seeing, by the way, you can see the little blue square shows you how it's playing, and you can see that it's playing backwards, and we're seeing the accretion disk come back, and you can control the speed. So here we'll go super fast, and you'll see that the accretion disk is really filling in, and at some point we're gonna, we lost the star, and now the dust is flying off into space. So that's the star formation process running in reverse, and you can do it that way. You can stop it. You can go frame by frame. So I'm sitting here, I'm clicking this repeatedly, and I'm going to the frame that I want. We can go back and forth on the frame, and while you're doing that, the exoplanet simulation will be running in the background. So you can use these controls to control the speed, and maybe pause and go backwards and forwards, and have discussions with your class on what you're seeing and what it all means. Okay, and once again, if you ever find your camera gets in some state that you don't like, just hit the escape, and that sort of brings you back. All right, so I'm going to zoom in on here, and I'll reset that by going to the front. And the last thing in the Visualization Studio I want to show you is we have a model of the Kepler satellite over here. And the Kepler satellite is looking into an area of space which is realistic given our night sky Milky Way design on the inside of the Visualization Studio, and it's showing you basically what's described here as the Kepler star field. And these red bars show you the areas of the night sky that Kepler is searching for exoplanets. And you also see these callouts that actually have specific exoplanets that the Kepler satellite is responsible for finding. Those are important because the ones that we are, they're actually, Kepler found many more than the ones that we're calling out, but these are being called out because these are the ones we'll be dealing with later on in the VMAX demo. And also, if you look around the night sky, you also find that we have other callouts that are similar. They weren't discovered by Kepler, but they're in other areas of the night sky, and they're also the ones that we'll be dealing with later on. And that's mostly it for the Visualization Studio. In our next video, we're going to talk about breaking down into teams and going to the labs. See you then.